Thank you. And good morning, everybody. And you're very welcome to this morning's Licensing Subcommittee, 8th of June 2022. My name is Councillor Jude Butt, and I am deemed to be the presiding person for this meeting as I am chair of the Licensing Committee. So my first task is to elect a chairman. And I would like to ask, please, for nomination for chairman. Do I have a nomination, please?
I nominate you, Councillor Butt.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bagwell. And do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Williams. So, Councillor Williams, will you be sitting in on this subcommittee, or is it going to be Councillor David Brown? Just for clarification there. Councillor Brown?
I think I'll be sitting in. I'm happy to second you if that's necessary.
Okay, well, we have a formal seconder. Thank you very much indeed. Bless you both. Okay, so having been duly elected, I move on now to housekeeping and ask our clerk, please, Mrs. Cutler, if she'd kindly take us through housekeeping. Thank you.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone present follow these ground rules for speaking. Only speak when invited to by the chairman. State your name before you speak if you have not been introduced by name. Please ensure that you unmute yourself and always turn on the video function before speaking. Please mute your microphone when you are not talking. After each party has made their representation, the chairman will ask each person in turn if they have any questions or comments. However, if at any point you would like to speak again, please use the raise your hand function at the top right of the screen. Finally, please can we ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Cutler. So we move then to item 2, apologies. So we firstly have apologies from Councillor Sarah Anderson, who wasn't able to join us this morning. And I think I will go now to our reserves. We always have 2 reserves just in case 2 of us aren't able to turn up. And we're spoiled for choice today. We have been joined by Councillor David Brown and Councillor Lawrence Williams. And we've already asked Councillor David Brown if he'd kindly step up and be part of our subcommittee this morning. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Brown. And also grateful thanks to you, Councillor Williams, for turning up this morning. Bless you. I don't know whether it's a relief, whether you can go home or whether you're disappointed because you're unable to stay. But of course you can stay if you would like, but you're also free to go. And thank you very much for turning up this morning. And thank you, Councillor Brown, for also saving the day. Bless you. So moving on then to declarations of interest. I'll take those in turn. Councillor Bagwell, do you have any declarations of interest?
No, none.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any declarations of interest?
No, none.
Thank you. And for completeness, I have no declarations of interest. That's Councillor Butt. Thank you. Moving on then to item 4, which is protocol for public speaking. Can we just note that the revised protocol for virtual meeting has been circulated with the agenda sheet at item 4. So we move on to our substantive, which is Cherry's Cafe, 65A Curzon Road, Bournemouth, BH1 4PW. So an application has been received for a new premises licence for the premises known as Cherry's Cafe, 65A Curzon Road, Bournemouth, BH1 4PW. And this matter is brought for the subcommittee for determination. So I'll ask each participant to introduce themselves and to state their role. So I'll start with myself. My name is Councillor Jude Butt, and I am chair of the Licensing Committee, and I'm chair of this subcommittee for the purposes of today's business. And I am the ward councillor for Creekmore, Hilborn and Waterloo. So we now move on to Councillor Bagwell.
Hi, I'm Councillor Bagwell. I'm the councillor for Hamworthy Ward and I am the vice chair of licensing.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bagwell. Councillor Brown.
Morning, yeah, Councillor David Brown. I'm a ward member for Bearwood and Merley.
Thank you. And Sarah Rogers.
Good morning, Sarah Rogers. I'm Senior Licensing Officer for BCP Council.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. And Mrs. Almeida, Mary Almeida.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Mary Almeida, Legal Advisor to the subcommittee today.
Thank you, Mrs. Almeida. And Mrs. Cutler.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Cutler and I'm the clerk to the Licensing Subcommittee this morning. Thank you.
And Amanda Stirry.
Yeah. I'm Amanda Sherry, owner of Cherry's Cafe.
Thank you very much. I am just going to write that down so I get that right. Thank you, Mrs. Sherry. And Mr. Dunn.
Yeah, Nigel Dunn, and I'm a resident of flat 173 Curzon Road, right next door to the cafe.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. You're very welcome this morning. And Mrs. Ridge hasn't been able to join us yet, Mrs. Cutler.
No, she's still not waiting in the lobby. No sign of her as such yet.
Okay, well, when
you.
the lady arrives, we will obviously let her in so she'll have her opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in addition, Democratic Services officers are providing technical support to the meeting, but they won't take any part in the hearing. So, just before I go through the procedure, I just wanted to check that all persons who've given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and anybody who wishes to withdraw any representation or doesn't want to speak has been identified. So, if you don't wish to speak anymore, you wish to withdraw, just pop your hand up. That doesn't go for committee members. They have to stay, I'm afraid. Okay, that's lovely. Everybody content. So just pop through the procedure then for order of speaking, and it will be as follows. The licensing officer will present the report. The applicant will then make their application. There will be questions of the applicant by all party, and members of the committee will go first. We have no responsible authorities this morning, but other persons, i.e. of the objectors, will then make their representations, and there will be questions of the other persons, those objectors, by the members of the subcommittee and all other parties. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last to go first, and the hearing will then conclude. Subcommittee will deliberate in private with the legal advisor and the clerk present. A notification of subcommittee decision will be given within a period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held in accordance with the regulations, which is today, June the 8th. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. So if everybody's content, we'll continue. I will just ask for that verification. So Mrs. Rogers, are you content?
I am, thank you.
And Mrs. Almeida?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
And Mrs. Sherry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dunn?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we don't have Mrs. Ridge with us as yet. Okay. So just finally, and most importantly, just remind everyone speaking not to repeat the information which they've already given in writing, but I wish you to expand on that written representation. And any questions to be asked through the chairman, please, and no cross-examination of parties or speaking between yourselves. I will introduce you with regard to your speaking. So we will start then, and I will ask our licensing officer, please, Mrs. Rogers, to present her report. Thank you, Mrs. Rogers.
Thank you very much. This is an application made by Amanda Sherry for a premises licence to provide alcohol, which will be ancillary to meals between the hours of 11 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. each day of the week for on sales only. As a result of the consultation, 4 representations were received under the grounds that to grant the application would undermine the prevention of crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. The applicant made contact with a view to mediation, and as a result, 1 representation was withdrawn, leaving 3 remaining. Dorset Police agreed a number of additional conditions to be imposed on the licence should it be granted. Details of the conditions agreed are attached at Appendix 3 of my report. No representations were received from any of the other responsible authorities. Should the application be granted and the applicant fails to operate in accordance with the licence and conditions attached to it, she will be aware that any of the responsible authorities or any other person may request a review of the licence at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rogers. Are there any questions, please, members, on points of fact for our licensing officer? Councillor Bagwell?
No, not from me.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Brown? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Brown.
No, not at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Sherry, do you have any questions on points of fact for a licensing officer?
No, nothing at the moment.
Okay. And Mr. Dunn, any questions on points of fact with regard to the report?
No, nothing at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So I don't have any questions on points of fact. Thank you, Mrs. Rogers, and thank you very much for your report. So now it's an opportunity for the applicant, Mrs. Sherry, for you to put forward your application. Mrs. Sherry, you have the floor.
Oh, you're right. Yes. So I'm looking to expand my business by opening possibly 2 or 3 evenings a week to provide an evening menu plus serving alcohol. Also, as we're very close to the football stadium, we're quite busy on football days. So I would like to offer our customers on football days to have a drink with their food. And also we're quite active members of the local community, and having spoken to lots of people in the area, they're all quite excited about the fact that we will be open more, longer hours. I'm not looking to open 7 days a week. until 9:30 p.m. as I personally couldn't put that many hours in myself. So I'm looking probably just to do 3 days a week, and Sunday afternoons till 4 o'clock to serve some wine or beer with roast dinners. So it's just to enhance my business a little bit more. I have tried previously to open in the evenings, but I feel with the option of having a beer or wine with dinner would help and increase my business.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So members, any questions for Mrs. Sherry? Councillor Brown?
No, I don't think at this moment, no.
Yeah, and Councillor Bagwell?
No, not at this moment.
Okay, I just overlap on what you've just said, I think, Mrs. Sherry, on behalf of the committee. So we've got a set of agreed conditions which have been agreed with you and the police.
Yeah.
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 And you've
had quite a lot of extensive talks with Louise at licensing at Dorset Police regarding this. Yeah.
I wondered whether you'd like to expand on that discussion and the agreements that you've come to for purposes. So, I think it might help. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of it is regarding football days. Obviously, we're very close proximity to the stadium. So we've agreed that I would require security, SIA, registered security, which I'm actually going to talk to the guys that run the security at the football club, because I'm thinking I could probably have one of their security, pay for one of them, and then they can go on to the club once they finished here. Also to have plastic glasses on match days prior to the matches, and obviously the evening games as well. It's only a small part of our business, but they are big money days for us, obviously, football days. Also, what was it? Can't remember everything, but she agreed that obviously when you're running alcohol on your premises, you need to keep an incident log. She's also said that she would review after a few months whether I would need security, because we're such a small premises. So if I've had no incidents, alcohol-related incidents logged in my incident book, then she would review that at a later date, because obviously it does cost quite a bit to have security. Also, 9:30 close, because obviously we're in a residential area. So yeah, I think that was more on obviously having all my staff trained on Challenge 25 and alcohol courses as well.
Okay, that's very helpful. Now, there's nothing specific with regard to dispersal in the conditions. There are 13 conditions. They're at Appendix 3, members. And if Mr. Dunn, if you have access to this, you should have it on your system, and also Mrs. Sherry. There's nothing specific I can see here with regard to dispersal. So as you say, you're a small premise. You don't expect the hordes to be turning up, but if you do have a decking area outside, do you not? A little decking?
Yes, I do. Yes.
So would you like to advise the committee as to how you may deal with dispersal? It's a residential area. You've got a few people outside drinking, and it's time for everybody to go home. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been running alcohol premises for most of my working life. I've managed pubs, hotels, restaurants in the past, so it's as it would be anywhere else. I would say it's the end. It's time now, time to drink up. I'm certainly not looking to have people sitting there getting rowdy and noisy, because my business is in this street, so I'm not looking to add to any antisocial behaviour. If anything, while we're open, there's less antisocial behaviour in the area. So yeah, basically, I would ask people to leave. One thing I have made a decision on myself is that I will never be here on my own, working alone. So if there is a dispersal issue, obviously I'll have another member of staff, and on match days, as I said, there'll be security to help with any issues there anyway.
Okay, and you feel confident that the CCTV, which it just says a documented check of CCTV shall be completed weekly to ensure all cameras remain operated. Now, the CCTV, is that exterior and interior?
Yes, yeah, I have 2 inside the cafe, which cover the whole cafe area, and also I have one on the decking and one on my bins, just more for fly tipping, because we've had a lot of fly tipping.
I think one of the main concerns obviously would be for residents that exterior area is well covered and you're aware of what's going on there at all times. So if you always have more than one person on the premise, that person would be available just to go out and check from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah, there would always be, while the alcohol, obviously I wouldn't want to be on my own at any point anyway, and I've always got a member of staff here with me. The busier days, for sure.
Sherry, that isn't conditioned, but would that be something that you would be happy to offer with regard to that added cover of somebody checking on a regular basis? So you would be content to do that. Okay. Yes. So going back then to your new business venture to expand your business. I'll bring you in a minute, Councillor Brown. No, I won't. I'll bring you in now because it may be that you're going to cover this very item. So, Councillor Brown, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's just actually just a couple of points with the applicant actually now. Just to clarify then, obviously in your application you said about the alcohol licence. Actually, it's useful to know that you've sort of got a background in licensed premises.
Oh, yeah, lots.
Kind of thing.
Abroad as well, not just in the UK.
Obviously, your application says that the provision of alcohol is ancillary to the sort of restaurant, to the cafe food. So just to clarify my understanding, so it would be very much people coming into the cafe during whether it's match days or in the evenings for a meal can have alcohol with their meals. Would you anticipate people being able to just hang around there, just continue drinking, or is it very much...
that's not what I'm looking for at all.
Okay.
It's purely just to offer a couple of drinks with a meal. It's not, I don't want people sat here all night drinking after they've eaten. That isn't how I'm planning it.
And just to clarify, people looking at the layouts both inside the premises and out on the decking outside the premises, they have their meals sort of sat there as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be very, okay. And you're content with all of the conditions that have been agreed with Dorset Police and the different
absolutely
with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown. So getting back then to your business venture, you advised the subcommittee that you were thinking that it would be 3 days because of your ability to be able to commit to that with regard to
in the interim, for sure,
what you could put into it. So what would those days be? Are they more likely to be around the weekend, or are they more likely to be
Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday offer to cover for the roast lunches.
Yeah, so normally I currently closing at 2 on a Sunday, and I'm looking to close at 4, maybe 5 on a Sunday, but no later than 5.
Okay, now explain to us a little bit about the football world. Okay, I know that Councillor Brown will know all about this, but I certainly don't, and I don't think Councillor Bagwell does unless she's been studying football. You say that football is part of your business, but how much part of your business is it? What is the season? How busy you're going to be, etc., etc.
So the season runs from August to May. So it's the winter months, sort of autumn, winter, spring. Between 14 and 20 home matches in that period. Some being evening matches, depends whether Bournemouth get through to the cup games as well, but generally it's the league and any sort of cup games, FA Cup or things like that. So the majority of the games are Saturday home games, and then you get the few sporadic evening games as well. Myself and my sister have had this cafe between us for 13 years. And when Bournemouth went into the Premiership, my sister had the cafe when they first went into the Premiership. And she decided to change the name to Cherries and add a little bit of football memorabilia. Although we were very busy on match days anyway, it has helped increase business. And we've had a meet and greet with some players. Eddie Howe came here to do a photo shoot while my sister had the cafe. So it is a part of our business, but it's only out of 365 days a year. It's probably a maximum of 20 football days a year around. I mean, I can't be precise, but I know there's normally about 14 home games, and then you add in a few cup games as well. So as I said, those days, although they're a big part of the business, they're only a small amount of time of the business.
I understand. So you're open 365 days a year?
Well, I'm closed Mondays.
Oh, you close Mondays? Okay, so bar Mondays.
I have a day off.
I'm certainly not doing the maths on that one. So we're talking really, aren't we, with regard to the football offer, that they're sort of mini events, and there's 14 to 20 mini events, and those mini events I can see, and I believe that you've had the discussions with the police, they've been identified as such, and that's why you've been asked to ensure that there's provision of SIA door staff, etc., etc. And for that to be under a review basis, because obviously if it does become that they are needed at all times, then they will indeed be needed at all times, but that's something which will be reviewed. And with your offer or your acceptance of the fact that those checks and balances need to be put in place outside the property, especially at those event times, which would be much more important. Okay, so I've got a much better understanding of that now. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to ask, other than, have you worked out how many extra hours it would be? Have you sat down and done that equation? From, you usually, I think you close at 2 now, is it, to looking at your website?
Yeah, so an extra, say 6 hours, to
so an extra
6 or 7 hours,
and we're talking, let me see, how many weeks in the year? 5, so 5 18s. Okay, so sort of an extra 100 hours in all, or 1,000. Is it 100 or 1,000? I'm absolute rubbish at maths, which I've just told the whole public that I can't add up. Right, okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Bagwell, are there any questions coming up?
No, very succinct. Very clear.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bagwell. And Councillor Brown, anything further?
Yes, actually, if I could.
Okay, yes, you've got your hand up. Wasn't sure if it was legacy or new.
No, I don't need to declare an interest because I'm not a Cherries fan.
Yes, you do. Everybody needs to declare an interest. No, that's fine.
But yeah, I'm a football fan, so I'm sort of familiar, and I have been to obviously Bournemouth ground a number of times, usually in the away end for my team. But I just wanted to check. Obviously, you do a fair bit of business on match days already in terms of providing sort of cafe facilities and light refreshments and that sort of thing. Do you ever have issues with people gathering outside the cafe on the sort of street? I was looking at the sort of layout and the plans and the pictures. It's reasonably sort of narrow pavement outside the area there. Do you ever have any issues with sort of crowds of people congregating on match days outside? Or
no, we don't. They generally come in, eat and go. Yeah, because they're all getting keen. I mean, they're keen to get to the ground, and it's generally the same people week in, week out. It's the same customers. They like to sit in the same seat. They like to eat the same food as a ritual, as part of their match day. And obviously, I have spoken to them a lot prior to me, because I was planning this pre-pandemic, but obviously everything got put on hold. And speaking to them a lot over the last couple of years, and there's basically the general consensus is the same: is that they'd enjoy a glass of wine or a beer before the game. But we don't have, they generally move on pretty quick. We don't have them hanging around.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Do you also have sort of post-match business as well? Obviously, people.
Sorry?
I can understand people their sort of match day routine, and it's sort of part of their pre-match routine. Do you have people coming sort of post-match?
Well, no, not before, obviously, because I've closed normally when they go, but with the alcohol license, I will be hopefully staying open till 9:30 on a Saturday evening. And that's where there was a little grey area with Louise at licensing, because I said I'd be happy to have security after if necessary. But the majority of people do just get in their cars and go after the football.
Yeah.
So it'd be more for the local residents on a Saturday.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so obviously the license, and I appreciate the license is 7 days a week, 11 till 9:30. But that doesn't mean you're going to operate.
No. I just wanted to give myself some flexibility there.
Yeah, because obviously now Bournemouth are in the Premiership with all the Sky Sports stuff. It could be on Monday or a Tuesday. It could be various nights of the week. Yes. Could be Friday when the match
that's
is
why
on.
I needed that flexibility with the license.
Okay, and that's just to understand that. I know I often travel to matches and usually meet friends after the match, actually, depending on the result, and we'll have a few celebratory drinks, hopefully. But so it's just to understand that there might be sort of post-match. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. If you'd like to pop your hand down. Yeah. So thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Sherry. So now, any questions? Mr. Dunn, do you have any questions for Mrs. Sherry, please?
Well, no, not as such, but one thing that was brought to my attention, that obviously when all this was put out there about the application, was we were told, or I was told, by another resident that there was going to be no drinking out on the decking area. All the drinking had to be consumed inside the premises, not outside. Because my front door is literally half a metre away from the decking area, and I don't particularly want people sat there having a drink whilst I'm sat in my lounge.
Thank you for that question. So, Mrs. Skerry, could you answer Mr. Dunn's question, please?
Yeah, what I personally, there's been no restrictions on that as far as Dorset Police are concerned. But I did say to one of the residents regarding the licence that after 7 p.m. I wouldn't allow drinking on the decking.
So is that, again, something that you'd like to offer the subcommittee as a condition?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to say from 7 p.m. no sitting out on the decking with alcohol.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Any further questions, Mr. Dunn?
No, not yet, no.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have Mrs. Ridge with us, Mrs. Cutler?
Hi, Chair. No, she still hasn't joined us. I have sent her an email. I don't have a telephone number for her. She's not replied, so I'm assuming that she's no longer attending this morning.
Right, thank you very much. Mrs. Rogers, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Dunn has his hand up.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Dunn, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I spoke to Jen last night via text message and asked her if she was attending today, and apparently she's teaching, so she can't attend.
That's fine. We won't. We're not cross with her if she can't turn up. Bless her. Sometimes people just can't. We totally accept that, and it's regrettable she can't be with us. But I'm sure you'll cover all aspects. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that information. It's extremely kind of you. Thank you. So now moving on then, Mr. Dunn, this is your opportunity to put forward your case and your concerns. So, Mr. Dunn, you have the floor.
Well, basically, I don't just speak on behalf of myself. I speak for quite a few residents, but I understand or been told that there's only been a selected few applications that have come, or like appeals that have come in, whereas as far as I was aware, like been told by other residents, there was quite a few people that actually objected to this licence. Jen, obviously next door, I don't know her exact views on what she wants, but my views personally are the fact that I'm literally right next door to the cafe, and the insulation and soundproofing in these flats, because they're purpose-built flats since being converted from shops, are not very good at all. They're actually quite shocking. You can hear every movement from the upstairs, from the cafe next door. So my argument is the fact is I don't particularly want alcohol licence right next door to the cafe, to my flat, when in say 2 years' time I want to sell my property. Like, to me, that's going to devalue my property, and it's going to make it even harder for me to sell. And then obviously I speak on behalf of quite a few people, like Jen again. She's looking to possibly sell in the next couple of years, and she's worried that obviously having an alcohol licence next door in a residential area is going to, again, devalue her property.
Okay. Are you done, Mr. Dunn?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. Okay, so a few comments there. Regrettably, the licensing subcommittee can't take into consideration any fiscal losses or fiscal issues with regard to the value of your property or not, with regard to any activity that may be taking place. That's not something that we can consider. I note that there is no issue. Any of our regulatory authorities haven't made any complaints or issues with regard to our environmental department, hasn't come in and raised any issues with regard to noise nuisance or any noise nuisance of complaints of the past. I will check with Mrs. Rogers. Have there been any complaints? Oh, thank you, Councillor Bagwell, for that prompt. Bless you. Mrs. Rogers, have there been any complaints with regard to noise issues with regard to this premise?
I wouldn't necessarily know about them directly, but given that the environmental health officer hasn't made a representation, I could check for you if you would like me to.
I think that would be useful, but I would agree with you that as the environmental health officer hasn't made a direct application, and we would always expect that because it's required under statute for that to happen. So noise hasn't been an issue up until now. We haven't had complaints up until now. And of course, if those issues do arise, if we were so disposed to grant, there is always the possibility of review by anybody who wishes to bring a complaint with regard to noise or any any matter which may be in breach of the 4 licensing objectives. A complaint can be brought by any member of the public, Mr. Dunn. So I think with regard to that, there's not an awful lot we can do with regard to that as to the information that we have in front of us. I'll ask Mrs. Rogers if you would kindly just check that point. I'd be very grateful. Mr. Dunn, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. I was just saying, didn't say there has been any noise complaints or been noise from the CAF. What I'm saying is, going forward, with the lack of soundproofing in the flats internally, right? So if Mandy's in her kitchen washing up, I know obviously everyone washes up. I can hear Mandy putting her pots and pans on a dishwasher. I can hear that. But obviously I don't kick off about it because that's part of everyday life, right? What I'm saying is, going forward, if there's Mandy's just said, like, you know, up till 7 o'clock, she'll stop people drinking out on the decking, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, my front door is literally half a metre away from Mandy's decking. So if I'm sat in my lounge and I work all different hours every day of the week, some days I can start at 3, some days I can start at 5 in the morning, some days I don't get back till 9 at night, 10 at night, all manner of hours. If I get back, the last thing I'm going to want is people sitting out the front or sitting in the cafe getting drunk. Because with alcohol, not every time, but there it does become nuisance. And I'm not saying it happens all the time, but, you know, 9 times out of 10 with football fans drinking, it happens. And this is where we've all, like the residents, are a bit uneasy with having an alcohol licence in a residential area, especially when there's kids in the flats. In like basically across Wilson Road, there's flats. Right opposite Mandy, there's kids there. There's obviously kids in our block of flats, and there's kids in the flats on the opposite side of our road. So there's kids everywhere in a residential area. This is what obviously we're all a bit concerned about. Plus, obviously, there has been antisocial behaviour coming down our road before. Like, you know, people have had Mandy back us up on it, like people having wing mirrors and that booted off on their cars. Do you know what I mean? So I know it's where the area that we live in, but we don't want to obviously add to that situation.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to ask our legal advisor, actually. There's a certain situation where it's impossible for subcommittees to provide for something which may or may not happen in the future. And there's a certain law which provides for that, and it's called Thwaites. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Almeida, please, if she would explain that so that you have an understanding of that with regard to any decision that we may make with regard to this application. Thank you, Mrs. Almeida.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, there's a case called Thwaites v. Wirral, which basically advised that panels cannot take into account possible future antisocial behaviour, noise nuisance, etc. There must actually be evidence of noise nuisance or antisocial behaviour having come from those premises. And that's a matter that was determined by the Magistrates' Court.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring in Councillor Bagwell. Councillor Bagwell, you have an observation. Thank you.
Thank you. I've listened closely to Mr. Dunn and Ms. Sherry. And if nuisance does happen, if we do grant the licence application, then we can always relook at it. It can always come back to us or back to the subcommittee. So from that respect, even if there is issues, they can be dealt with. That way we will have proof as opposed to having an idea, because an idea may be wrong. And I think if there's security at the premises, etc. And I do appreciate that the flats are very unsoundproof is probably the word I'd use, and with your front door very close to the neighbours, and I do appreciate that, because I'm pretty certain you do a hard job, and you need your rest. So yes. Thanks, and so for me, we can't prejudge that on that issue. But thank you very much for everything you've both said.
Thank you very much, Councillor. It's extremely helpful. And thank you, Mrs. Almira, for that clarification with regard to law. Mr. Dunn, if you have anything further to say, is there anything else you'd like to add? And then I'll move on to questions. No?
No, I'm not for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. So we don't have Mrs. Ridge with us, I believe. No, I can't see her. So then, questions then for Mr. Dunn. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Dunn? Councillor Brown? You're on mute, Councillor Brown, unfortunately.
Sorry, just had to come off mute. No, obviously, I appreciate the sort of concern about noise nuisance from the premises next door. Just to ask whether have you sort of experienced much noise nuisance? And I note from the pictures that there's a screen that's been placed at the side of the decking at the front. Does that sort of help minimise or mitigate any sort of noise nuisance from the sort of front decking at all? Or?
Well, not really. It's just something you get out of B&M. It's nothing official. It's just more there for Mandy's privacy. To be fair, it's like, because if Mandy didn't have that there, then her customers that are sat pretty much at the end of the deck and are looking at my bins, and on a hot day, they're not going to be wanting to be looking at my bins, are they? So Mandy's just put that there as more as decoration, more than anything.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Brown. So I have a question. Mr. Dunn, where exactly do you live? I don't have a in front of me.
If you're stood on Curzon Road and you're looking at the cafe from the side on Curzon Road, if you look to the right hand side at the end of the decking area, there's a white door. I literally basically the other side of Mandy's kitchen. That's literally where I live, ground floor.
So the door on the other side of that screen is your front door, right?
Yeah.
And do you know, I know you can't answer on behalf of Mrs. Ridge, but I believe you know Mrs. Ridge?
Only as a neighbour.
So she's a neighbour. And where does Mrs. Ridge live?
So if you're looking at the front of the flats, there's a door then next to my front window, which is the door to the communal entrance up to the flats upstairs. Mm-hmm. Jennifer lives on the flat next door to that.
And we're told
she's flat 2.
Okay, and we're told this is an Airbnb.
Above, directly above. No, Jen lives there, so she lives. The Airbnb is above me and Mandy.
It's above. I understand. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, I don't have any further questions, Councillor Bagwell.
No,
okay,
I don't. I think
thank you. And any questions from you, Mrs. Sherry, for Mr. Dunn? Thank you.
I don't believe so, no. I've always tried to manage any disturbance or noise. I did put the trellis at the end of the decking for decorative purposes, but also just so that it gives Nigel a bit of privacy. I can't say sound privacy, but actual visual privacy. And the day I put it up, Nigel was there, and I did actually, or I think a couple of days later, I said to Nigel, is that okay? I said, it makes things look a bit nicer. So I did mention to, I did ask Nigel if he thought it was okay, and he said yes. So, and I will just say that I did mention to Nigel quite a few months ago that I was looking to, sorry, I have a baby in the cafe, so if you can hear me in the background, I'm actually at work, and I can't tell the baby to be quiet.
No, baby rock, that's fine.
She's a happy baby. But no, I don't actually, as far as noise and everything else, I've always tried to be reasonable with all the neighbours, everybody in the area. I used to live in Wilson Road, which is the corner of the cafe. On Curzon and Wilson. I lived there for 15 years. All I'm trying to do is improve on my business and the area by offering the locals something more. So no, I don't. I just feel that
you have no specific questions for Mr. Dunn?
No.
Thank you very much for that. Mrs. Rogers, do you have any questions for Mr. Dunn, please?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So now it's an opportunity for everyone to sum up. So we'll.
Sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Sherry.
So I've got customers.
Okay.
You
Okay.
sort
Well,
that out.
we're going to ask we're actually going to ask you to sum up first, Mrs. Sherry, if that's okay, because you would be the first party. So if you would like to sum up with regard to your application, or if you don't want to give a summary, that's absolutely fine. But you have the floor.
I'm more than happy just to say that given the application goes ahead, I obviously will follow all rules and everything provided by the council and Dorset Police. Yeah, so that's my summing up. I'm certainly not looking to add to any antisocial or any issues within the area. I've always felt that while the CAF is open, there's less antisocial problems in the area as there's an open premises in the street. The antisocial problems of the area is drug dealing. It's renowned, and we find that during the day when we're open, it happens a lot less. So that's my main sort of sum up about the worries about antisocial behaviour. But I'm certainly not going to be encouraging people to sit in my cafe and get drunk.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sherry. Thank you. Okay, so then we have Mr. Dunn. This is your opportunity to sum up.
Well, it's pretty much what I've said already. As you've already said, you can't. It's not down to you to if it affects the properties or anything like in the way of value or anything like that. But that is a concern to all residents there that do own properties in future years coming forward. Like if we were to sell, is that going to affect us? I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to buy a property next to a cafe that's selling alcohol, but other than that, is the antisocial behaviour. But like Mandy says, if she's going to try and keep it to a minimum, then what more can I say?
Yes, it is a challenge for you, Mr. Dunn. We do appreciate that, and we're extremely grateful that you do come and put your objections in front of us, and that we do hear what you've got to say. We're very grateful for you coming this morning and speaking with us. Thank you. And all the matters that you've raised will be considered very, very carefully. Thank you very much. So Mrs. Ridge isn't with us. Mrs. Rogers, do you have any summary?
No, thank you. It's all
okay. Thank you very much indeed. So I don't have any hands up. Lovely. Okay. So in that case, then I will conclude the hearing. And at the end, we're at the end of our meeting. The subcommittee will now adjourn in private with our legal advisor and our clerk, and we will deliberate. And notification of the subcommittee's decision will be provided within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held in accordance with the regulations, which is today, Wednesday, 8th of June. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. And I'll just ask our legal advisor, Mrs. Almeida, please, if you'd kindly advise us with regard to the right of appeal.
Thank you, Chair. If members decide to refuse the application or attach conditions to the licence which the applicant doesn't agree to, the applicant may appeal to the Magistrates' Court within a period of 21 days, beginning with the day the applicant is notified in writing of the decision, and any other person who has made a valid representation may also appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21-day period if aggrieved by the decision made.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Milner. So I'd just like to thank everybody for coming today, to Mrs. Skerry, Mr. Dunn, our objector, and everybody else, our officers in our subcommittee. It's always very difficult to put forward an application, and it's always very difficult to come along and object for one. So we do understand how difficult it is for both of you, and we're extremely grateful for your candour today and your clarity in all your concerns in what you've had to advise us. So with that said, I will now close the meeting, and we will adjourn to deliberate. Thank you very much. If we could complete live stream.